Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Katamocha bhikkhave paticca samuppadoti. Venerable brothers, Dhamma friends, so yesterday actually I touched a little bit of the Kalakarama Sutta. I tried to give you a brief introduction about it, and then we stepped into what we call as the Sunyata Bhumi, the area where Buddha is trying to explain about the emptiness. So basically the message is very much like, in a more profound way, how a certain amount of existence, certain amount of continuation happen without the participation of a person, without the participation of an individual, without the participation of a self. So that is something kind of a puzzle. So we all are tempted to think, okay, there is a person, there is an agent, there is some sort of an external force. So that is how the things are existing, that is how things are continuing. So that is why people attributed an ongoing self, kind of an external force, unseen God, something like that. So there's a kind of a puzzle. So how things are happening without an agent, without such a self. So it's something questionable. So now we are getting to a kind of a teaching where Buddha is trying to explain things, that how things are still happening, but there is no such self, there is no such agent, there is no such individual, or there is no such being. So that is actually explained through Satpatisamuppada. And as I just touched on yesterday, that there's a particular sutta called Panchavera Bhaya Sutta. Actually, it emphasizes that certain three type of knowledge or skills that even a stream Vinaya is having, a Sotapanna is having. So the one area is that the four types of the Sotapatti Anga, that he's already attained the stream winning stage, and so he is with unwavering confidence to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and again about the Sila. So he's continuing his Sila. So these are the sort of already acquired skills or qualities that he is now having. Other than that, since he is protecting proper Sila, he won't get any kind of an animosity, any kind of a fear coming out of the five precepts. Because when you are killing, when someone is stealing, when someone is engaged with sensual misconduct, and if someone is lying and using the intoxicants, even though it might give a kind of a very temporary satisfaction, kind of a gratification, kind of a fulfillment, but on the other hand, it ends up with maybe a kind of inner guilt, and on the other hand, coming from the other side, expecting some sort of a consequence, either in this life or in the future life. You might have to expect some sort of a consequence as a result of that bad behavior, wrong behavior. So always there could be a little bit of anxiety going in the mind of a person when someone is engaged with such kind of a wrong behavior. But on the other hand, when consider Sotapannas, who is into the path now, he is a trainee now, he is completely free from that. So that is something that Buddha sort of highlight, mentioning that basically that particular person who is a Sotapanna is basically saying that 5 fearful animosities are not in him. Yatoko gahapati aryasavakassa pancha bhayani verani vupasantani honti. So these 5 types of fears and resentments coming from the outside world is now free. He is free from that fear. Now there's another third very important quality highlighted by the Buddha, attributed to a Sotapanna, is actually related to Patisamuppada. So how it is mentioned here is that Ariyo chassa nyayo panyaya suditto hoti suppati viddo. Ariyo chassa nyayo, that's a noble method Panyaya suditto hoti, and he has seen it clearly through wisdom. And not only that, suppati viddho, he has penetrated that. So someone can simply study Paticcasamuppada and get a thorough theoretical understanding about it, and you doesn't need to be a Sotapanna to have that. But here another interesting term added at the end of the statement, that suditto hoti. So he has penetrated it, he has clearly seen that. It's not a mere theoretical, superficial understanding, but he still has a very thorough, realistic, or say experiential type of understanding about the Paticcasamuppada. So we can see, therefore, Paticcasamuppada is one of the important teaching of the Buddha, and in one sense it is helping us to understand how things can happen without the participation of a self, without a participation of an agent, without a participation of a kind of an individual, a being. So that's what we are now trying to explore. And so in order to explain Paticcasamuppada, let me take certain other suttas. There are many suttas actually around Paticcasamuppada collected into a one area called Nidana Sangyutta in the Sangyutta Nikaya, connected discourses of the Buddha. And there are one interesting sutta found called Pacce Paccuppanna Sutta, where Buddha is talking about the principle as well as the factors which is adhering to that principle or obeying to that principle. So when we are talking Paticcasamuppada, there are two sides, therefore we need to understand. So that's how Buddha explained it. Monks, I am going to tell you what is Paticcasamuppada and what are the Paticcasamuppanna Anga. So Paticcasamuppada is one thing, and the factors which is fulfilling, complying to that Paticcasamuppada principle is another thing. Typically we might be thinking, okay, when someone is asking what is Paticcasamuppada, someone might simply say, okay, avijja pacca sankhara, sankhara pacca vijnana, we keep on telling that. So those are actually, in one sense, are examples which are fulfilling that Paticcasamuppada. So that is the governing principle. Paticcasamuppada is the governing principle. That is the ariyo chassa nyayo, that is the nyaya, the particular principle, that particular noble method. And that is well explained like this. In the Panchavera Bhaya Sutta, so Buddha mentioned like this: Idagahapati Arya Savako Paticcasamuppadanyeva sadhukang yoniso manasikaroti. Now, this particular noble disciple is capable of properly reflecting about the Paticcasamuppada like this. So how it is explained? Iti imasming sati idang hoti, imassuppada idang uppajjati. Imasming asati idang nahoti, imassa nirodha idang nirujjati. Now, sometimes this is not much familiar to us. What we might be thinking and what might be familiar is those 12 factors, avijja, pacca, sankhara, blah, blah. But here, Buddha is emphasizing, okay, this is the principle. This is the noble principle that he thoroughly understands. It literally means when this exists, this also exists, and as a result of this comes to be, this also coming to be. Arising in a way, and the arising side. On the other hand, without this can't exist, or else on the other way we can say with the cessation of this also cease, and with the passing away of this also pass away. It's a very tricky kind of a principle. In a way explaining kind of a dependency. When we are considering two factors, so there is a kind of a dependency between these two factors. So one has a dependency on the other. Now, just to explain that, we can give a certain example using that known, formula, avijja pacca sankhara, for example. So, if I am putting this particular principle to avijja pacca sankhara, avijja and sankhara, those two parameters, so avijja is one factor and sankhara is another factor. If we put the principle now to that, we can say, when avijja is present, ignorance is present, sankhara also may be present. With the arising of avijja, sankhara may arise. And without avijja, you can't have sankhara. Or the other way, with the cessation of avijja, the sankharas also cease. With the passing away of avijja, the sankharas also pass away. So each and every link, therefore, is a kind of a duet which is satisfying this particular principle. Now, say for example, if we say Vedana Pacchaya Tanha. So Vedana and Tanha has a relationship. So Vedana causes Tanha to happen. So without Vedana, there might not be such a kind of a Tanha, craving available. So there's a relationship between Vedana and Tanha, therefore. When Vedana is present, Tanha also may be present. With the arising of Vedana, the feeling, Tanha also may arise. And with the cessation of Vedana, Tanha also may cease. And with the passing away of Vedana, Tanha also pass away. So, kind of a forward relationship where Vedana and Tanha, Vedana becomes the proximity cause for Tanha, for the craving. Now, if we take another example, say, Upadana Pacchaya Baho. So, the grasping causes kind of an existence, kind of a becoming. So, grasping becomes the prerequisite, the kind of a condition for becoming to happen, the existence to happen. So, it is the proximate cause. So, when grasping is there, there's a possibility for the becoming to happen. With the arising of grasping, becoming also can arise. The bhava, the existence can arise. And without grasping, there can't be any existence. And therefore, with the cessation of grasping, the existence also may cease. So basically, that's in a way another very interesting teaching, that bhava nirodho nibbana. So, kind of grasping is a must for us to have a continuation, for us to continue the life again and again into different existence. So, without grasping, Buddha say, okay, there is no continuation of another future life. So, it's another very interesting teaching. Anyway, now likewise, if you consider these typical Patissamuppanna anga, the factors, so they are actually fulfilling this particular principle. What is the principle? Ite imasmin sati idang hoti, imasuppada idang uppajjati, imasmin asati idang nahoti, imassa nirodha idang nirujjati. When this exists, this comes to be. With the arising of this, this also arises. With the cessation of this also ceases. And the passing away of this passes away. So kind of a relationship. So basically, now we all are familiar with the 12 factors. Avijja, Sankhara, Vijnana, Namarupa, Salayatana, Passa, Vedana, Tanha, Upadana, Bhava, Jati, Jara, Marana. So these are the factors we are maybe familiar with. And when we are thinking about this particular principle, we always have to take two factors. Any of the two factors we can connect to this, put into this principle, and we can say, okay, these two are satisfying this particular principle. So, an interesting thing in this, say, Pacce Pachuppanna Sutta, Buddha gives a... So therefore, in order to explain the particular principle, at least how many factors we need? Just to explain it at least? We need just two. Two is enough. So therefore, Buddha sometimes take just two factors, either from the front, either in the middle, either from the end of that chain, and he simply say, okay, this is Patissamuppada. So say, for example, in this sutta, Jati Pacchaya Bhikkhave Jara Marana. So this Jara Marana, for the decay and the death to happen, Jati, the birth is a must. Birth is the prerequisite. So this is the principle. He simply summarized in a way, okay, this is the principle. So when birth is there, then the Jara Marana is unavoidable, it is there. So with the arising of birth, Jara Marana also arise. But in case there is no birth, there can't be Jara Marana, and therefore with the cessation of birth, Jara Marana also cease. Simple as that. Now, interesting thing is this statement. Upadava tathagatānaṁ anupadava tathagatānaṁ tithāvasa dhātu dhamma titata dhamma niyamata idappaccheta. Another term given for Patissamuppada is called idappaccheta. And Buddha here particularly mentioned either the arising of a Tathagata or not. This particular principle still continues. So it is not something created by the Buddha. It's a kind of an eternal law. And Buddha reveals it. So he emphasized like that. So he either Buddha is there or not. Buddha comes to this world or teach or not. This principle still exists. This is the kind of a governing principle. But Buddha is the one actually explore it, understand it, and then show to us. So he explained like that. Tan tathagato abhisambujjati, abhisameti, abhisambujjitva, abhisametva, achikkati, deseti, panyapeti, pattapeti, vivarati, vibhajati, uttani karoti, passatati chaha. So, translation like this. Whether there is an arising of Tathagatas or not arising of Tathagatas, that element still persists. The stableness of the Dhamma, the fixed cause of the Dhamma, specific conditionality. A Tathagata awakens to this and breaks through to it. Having done so, he explains it, teaches it, proclaims it, establishes it, discloses it, analyzes it, elucidates it. And he says, see, with ignorance as condition because volitional formations. It's a very strong statement basically. So therefore it is not something that Buddha created. Rather Buddha sort of awakened to that. He realized that. It's an eternal law. It is how things are continuing. And it is basically kind of hidden to us. So we are not awakened to that. That principle is hidden from us. So once Buddha is arising, so he is able to understand it thoroughly, penetrate it thoroughly, and now he is explaining it. Okay, this is how it happens. This is the principle. And these are the different factors which is satisfying this principle. This is how the world is continuing. And he elucidates it, he simplifies it, and so that we can understand it. So therefore, one important aspect of the Buddha's teaching is that he reveals it, and sometimes we can even summarize the whole Buddha's teaching to the Patissamuppada. Yo dhammam passati, so mam passati. So mentioned in the, I think, Mahahatti-padopama Sutta, where if one is able to understand Patissamuppada, he deeply understands the Dhamma. If one deeply understands Dhamma, it means that he deeply understands Patissamuppada. So such a big relationship is there to the Patissamuppada. And sometimes people ignore it thinking, okay, it's very difficult, we can't understand it, something like that. That's also a wrong perception. And if we are paying particular attention to the principle, so that is very, very important. And practically we should try to understand it in a way, practically. And that's also not that difficult. I mean, maybe complete each and every factor understanding which is satisfying the principle might take time. But as we are continuing the Vipassana practice, there are certain links which are accessible to the yogi, which are able to understand how it is conditioning the next result. Say, for example, if one is practicing walking meditation, for example, and it is quite easy to understand your feeling or your sensation is utterly dependent on the contact. So your foot is touching the ground, there's a contact happen, accordingly the feeling arises. That's a very interesting principle that nuns actually has answered to Venerable Nandaka, available in Nandakovada Sutta. Tajjan tajjang paccayam paticca tajja tajja vedana uppajjati. What that means is, whenever particular contact happens, that determines, that structure, or that nature of that contact determines the quality of the feeling. So basically the feeling is fully dependent on the contact. Now say, for example, when you are walking in this floor, it's a tile floor. So your feeling is one tone in a way, one quality. Say you step out and you are walking on a sandy path. So your experience is different because the contact is different. Say you are using a coir mat and then you are walking. So your experience is different because the touch, the contact is different. It's not that difficult to understand also, right? So the texture of the floor, in a way, decides or determines the quality of the feeling, quality of your experience. So it is the determining factor in a way. It appears like simple, but as you are continuing this, applying this principle to each and every experience, you might understand it's a kind of a generalized principle. It's not only for this. Whatever the feeling arises, entirely depending on the nature of the contact. So feeling is a conditioned phenomena. So how can you then say, okay, feeling is mine? Feeling belongs to me. I have complete control over my feeling. I am the owner of the feeling. Feeling is a self. Then it appears like not logical, right? Because if we thoroughly understand every time the feeling is arising due to the contact, so the contact is the real governing factor. Whenever, if you want to change the feeling, you have to change the contact, the nature of the contact. Now, if I am on the other way, if I am thinking, okay, feeling is myself, feeling is me, I want feeling, I want to control the feeling, so I have some capacity to control feeling, so feeling is myself, then that's appear like little awkward because we thoroughly practically understood, okay, the feeling totally depending on contact. So if you really want to change the feeling, then you have to address the contact because contact is the cause. But contact also depends on other factors. So we have to go again and again looking after the other previous factors. So likewise, so we are in a big trouble there also because when we are trying to address the contact, if it is dependent on so many other reasons, then we don't have control to those axes. Then how are we going to control it? So likewise, people are anyway trying hard to control all this. So I mean, we are trying to control the weather, we are trying to control the condition, the experience, everything we are trying to control. But there are many instances that we lose the control because things are fairly dependent on so many factors. Certain factors are sometimes unseen and we haven't even addressed that factor, and we might ignore that factor. Immediately that factor comes and attack and change, and therefore ultimately we are in trouble. And also another thing to understand is that even though we say contact is the primary cause for feeling, it is not the only cause. There may be other causes as well, right? But the most prominent cause is the contact, but there may be other causes. Most prominent cause is the contact. So when we are talking avijja pacca sankhara, sankhara pacca vijnanam, that formula, so most prominent causes are highlighted, and so that we can understand it. So basically, one important aspect is to understand it. So how to understand the Dhamma, how things are happening, and we need a little bit of a rational, explanation. Then only we can understand, then only we feel confident, okay, and things are appearing like, okay, happening according to that what we have understood. So in a way, Buddha somewhat simplified the whole process rather than adding so much of complexity into the picture. So he in a way simplified the whole thing and present to us, okay, monks, look at this. So therefore, Patissamuppada in one sense is a simplified formula given to us so that we can comprehend. So we may have the capacity to understand it, but upon around it there may be other additions one can make. Right? Instead of 12, one can make it as 24. And you can add so many other conditions and various other formulas and can make it fairly complex. That's also possible. That's how nowadays, now there's a big interest going on, the Patthana Pakarana, so Patthana Deshana. So the ground is very much to the Parissamuppada. So Parissamuppada can be explained using these 12 factors, giving examples. And again, one can say about the 24 factors also. So this is how things are happening, and one can argue, okay, there are 24 reasons, 24 factors, like that also. Many different approaches are possible, but in the Sutta Pitaka we can see Buddha again and again emphasize this Parissamuppada. First thing is the principle, and there are what we call as the factors which is actually fulfilling the principle. And practically, if we are into Vipassana meditation, a fair amount of this can be understood. That's an interesting thing. It is not a kind of a philosophical explanation, it's not a dogmatic teaching. Rather, whoever the practitioner has the capacity to slowly access it, slowly understand it. That's the interesting thing, because otherwise what happens is we simply believe it, we simply accept it blindly, and we start venerating it. So that is not what Buddha wants us. Rather, he is explaining it, teaching it to us, and he is asking us to see it. And through the practice, we are now trying to see it, to understand it practically, in a way. So therefore, walking meditation, for example, as you continue, so one little link is where Passa Pacca Vedana, the contact causes feeling. Suppose that you are again and again continuing your path, continuing your practice, again and again, whenever feeling happens, probably you can introduce a little bit of Yoniso Manasikara just to look at the cause. So what is the cause? What is the kind of contact causing this feeling? Because most of the time there are feelings, and rather than simply, attached to the feeling, attracted to the feeling, and maybe complaining about the feeling, so probably we can step back and see what is the cause of this feeling. So that is actually promoting the Yoniso Manasikara, and again giving us an opportunity to understand the Parissamuppada. Because two factors are fairly enough to understand this conditioning principle. So whenever there is a feeling, so probably if we introduce a little bit of Yoniso Manasikara into the picture, rather than we being carried away by the feeling, probably we can think, okay, what made this feeling? What is the exact reason? What is the kind of a cause for this feeling to happen? So that way, the typical tendency can be broken. Now, with respect to feelings, there is a kind of a habitual tendency in our mind. Whenever there is a pleasurable feeling, we naturally get attracted to it and we want it. I want it. I like it. I want to enjoy it. And you feel really happy about it. So this is the typical tendency with respect to pleasurable feelings. Hope you all agree. In a way, if we simply habitually promote that tendency, disadvantage is that we are promoting a particular latent tendency called Raga Anusaya. Probably you might have read about the Chula Vedalla Sutta, that Venerable Dhammadinna, the Arahant nun, so she is explaining that particular principle. So whenever you are ignorantly, unmindfully attracted to a particular pleasurable feeling, you start liking it, desiring it, wanting it, having it even tomorrow, blah blah. So basically promoting the further cycles of desire. You are promoting the craving in the mind, so promoting the what we call the Raga Anusaya, latent tendency to lust. On the other hand, when there are certain painful feelings, the opposite reaction is there. I want to get rid of it. Why it happened to me? I don't like it, I hate it. So that tendency, what is the defilement that we are promoting? The promoting the ill will, in a way, the patiganusaya. So we don't like it, I want to get rid of it, I hate it. So with respect to the painful feeling, whenever we are ignorantly experiencing, we want to get rid of it. So that is the natural, habitual reaction to the feelings. Particularly the pleasurable feelings and the painful feelings. On the other hand, the equanimous feelings, we are quite ignorant. And we are not much noticing it. We are quite ignorant about it. So we may feel bored when the equanimous feelings are present. So we want to replace it with the pleasurable feeling. So the ignorance is the kind of a latent tendency we are promoting when we are ignorantly, unmindfully going through certain kind of a equanimous feeling. So therefore, these are the attached three types of defilements to each and every type of feeling when we are ignorantly handling different kinds of feelings. So in another side note, so in order to promote defilements, so we don't need to take a big trouble. I mean, even just the daily life, as we are attracted to a pleasurable feeling and promoting that, we are promoting the lustful tendency in the mind. As we are hating and crying and trying to attack the sort of the painful feelings, hating it, and that also promotes certain tendency in the mind, the patiganusaya. And again, when we are not mindful and ignorantly carried away by the other tendencies, so that means unmindful behavior, ignorant behavior is a very good platform for the development of the defilements, latent tendencies. But in the meditation, in the practice, now we are going against that particular latent sort of habitual tendency. Whenever a pleasurable feeling happens, if instead of you trying to get attracted to it and saying, I want it, I like it, how about you telling, okay, it is just a pleasurable feeling. So you step out of that tendency, right? You are not promoting that trait in the mind. On the other hand, when there is a painful feeling happens, how about just looking at it objectively? There is a painful feeling arise. It is not me suffering, not that he made me suffering. He is the one responsible. Rather, there is a painful feeling. Just a painful feeling. So you are not adding a person to it. We are not sort of connecting it to another external individual, saying he is the responsible person for this pain I am going through. This is just a painful feeling arising. Now, how about adding another layer? What is the cause for the pleasurable feeling? What is the cause for the painful feeling? What is the cause for the equanimous feeling? So we are going another step ahead, right? So just merely experiencing the painful feeling as mere painful feeling also is a really wise approach. Experiencing the pleasurable feeling as mere pleasurable feeling also a very wise approach. And further going to understand the cause for what is the cause for this experiencing or the ongoing pleasurable feeling is going to another level of understanding. So if while we are practicing Vedananupassana, slowly, when we are developing the capacity to step back and not to be a victim of the habitual pattern of approach to the different kinds of feelings, so first approach is just to look at it as it is. Okay, it is a mere pleasurable feeling, it's a mere happiness, it's a mere painful feeling, it's a mere little bit of resentment. So kind of a decentering process is there. So you are, rather than being trapped in the feeling, rather than being trapped in the experience, you are able to come out of the experience. So this is very critical aspect of Satipatthana. Now, say for example, even if we talk about Kayanupassana, so when in-breath happens, So you can step out of it and you can simply experience in-breath, right? So this is a mere in-breath. When out-breath happens, it is a mere out-breath. Is it me who owns the in-breath? No, there is no such a story, right? It's just a mere in-breath, mere out-breath, mere in-breath, mere out-breath. So we are kind of training the mind. So we are training the mind how to observe particular bodily phenomena without interfering it, without participating it, just to be a mere witness of a particular physical phenomena, physical, say, process. Same thing valid for the feelings. So how to experience a particular painful feeling without adding our judgment, without adding our inner dislike, any hateful thought, adding any personal, say, quality into the thing. Rather, you keep the feeling as it is, painful feeling as it is, and patiently step out of it and simply look at, it is a mere painful feeling. It's a fairly advanced way of approaching the pain as well as the pleasure. Now, another step ahead is where you are trying to look at the cause. So what is the cause for this pleasurable feeling? What is the cause for this painful feeling? What is the cause for this equanimous feeling? So when we are touching that aspect, we can say, okay, now we are moving towards the Parissamuppada. We are trying to understand the cause of the feeling. Probably, say, as you are continuing that sort of an approach, probably you might understand, okay, there is a type of a contact going on. Especially straightforward way, while we are walking, of course, we can understand, okay, there is a type of a feeling, okay, this is the contact. This sort of a contact is there. So that has determined what is the quality of the feeling. If I am walking at a different place, okay, it decides what is the quality of the feeling. But sometimes it is not that easy to understand when there is a, say, while you are sitting, there is a little painful feeling going on. It might be difficult for you to immediately figure out what is the exact cause, how the contact is there internally. It may be difficult. But there may be obvious instances where you can understand, okay, this particular feeling has happened because of that particular contact. And another interesting area is the next link, Vedana Pacca Tanha. So typically, when there is tanha, when there is a kind of a desire happens in the mind, so typical tendency in the mind is to promote it. We add further to it. We start further thinking according to that desire, and we take certain pictures, what has happened in the past, and we add that also into the desire, and we put certain imagination into the picture and we add further to the desire. So what happened to the desire then? Desires start growing. You can just take an example of a lustful thought. Say there's a lustful thought arising in the mind, and you feel a little bit of say satisfaction, and so you promote that desire, and then you link that to a past experience, and you may have a kind of a fantasy into it, and you add more and more into it, and ultimately you start burning with lust. Same thing common to any other desire. So if you start experiencing certain kind of a desire, unknowingly what happens is we start promoting it, we start adding to it, we take various other examples and putting things to it, get together, further fabricate it, and ultimately end up with a really defiled state of mind. What is the other approach? What is the Satipatthana approach? There is a desire arising, and it might be already arisen, and now you may be mindful about it. Now at least stop it. Don't promote it now. Step out of it. Now decenter. It depends on the kind of the sharpness of the mindfulness. So if the mindfulness is not that sharp, we might trace the desire only when it has reached certain amount of a threshold, right? But if your mindfulness is very, very sharp, you might be able to trace the desire when it is even at the very low level. It may be, say, in order for you to feel the desire, you have to add, say, 5 thoughts to it. A little bit of growth is there. Assume that at the 5th level, you are able to trace it. But if your mindfulness is pretty weak, so you are continuing this, promoting it, you are adding to it and all that, and now it is growing. Assume it has reached 100, then you start feeling it. Might be too late. Isn't it? So tracing a desire basically has fair amount of influence coming through mindfulness. So if we have fair amount of mindfulness, then we are in a way fairly safe, because we can understand the particular defilement, particular desire at its very early stage. Like a disease, isn't it? Say if you understand a tumor or whatever, a disease at its early stage, you are in a better position to take a decision, see a doctor, and he has various options to overcome that. In case it has grown to a higher level, has very less capacity, very less opportunity even to overcome that. Same thing with the mental side. So even when a desire is there, so if you are unable to trace it, if you are unable to notice it, it has overgrown to a certain level, then only if you might have noticed it, probably now the power is too high for you to even stop it. But if you are able to have fair amount of sharp mindfulness, then mindfulness will quickly tell you, okay, now there is a desire. Now assume, now the mindfulness has shown us, okay, now there is a desire. Now what are we going to do? Previously we are completely unmindful and we don't see desire as desire. Rather, I simply start acting according to the desire. Right? So when there is a desire, assume that you are simply walking somewhere and you saw someone and there is a little desire and you start further promoting it. You want to look at further and you want to look closer and you want to talk, you want to touch and blah, blah, blah. We simply a victim of that desire because we don't have even learned something like another approach, and our mindfulness is also very weak, and that desire completely absorbed us into it. We are being consumed by the desire. But on the other hand, as we are continuing the path, we have a kind of a capacity to step out of the desire. Okay, you have the capacity now to look at desire as desire. Like we just explained, you have the capacity to look at pleasurable feeling as a pleasurable feeling, painful feeling as a painful feeling. We have the capacity to look at in-breath as mere in-breath, out-breath as mere out-breath. Similarly, as we are continuing the path, when you are stepping into, say, Chittanupassana, you have the capacity to look at a certain defilement as a defilement. It may be even valid for wholesome thought. It may be wholesome thought, it may be unwholesome thought. You can simply look at it as it is, completely decentered. So you are able to completely come out of the experience and you are not a victim of that desire anymore. So, saragan chittanti pajanati. Sadosan chittanti pajanati. O vitaragan chittanti pajanati. Vitadosan chittanti pajanati. So Buddha particularly mentioned, okay, when there is a lustful thought, okay, you merely see, there is a lustful thought. When there is a angry thought of ill will, okay, you understand, there is a thought of ill will. When there is a dispassionate thought, there is a renunciative type of a thought. When there is a metta thought, loving kindness thought, there is a loving kindness thought. So once you step into this kind of a level, are you promoting desire? Are you promoting loving kindness? Yes? Or no? No. We are not promoting anything in a way, right? We look at it as it is. So you completely decentered. You can recognize there is a desire, lustful thought, It's a mere lustful thought. How about a renunciative thought? It's a mere renunciative thought, that's it. You are not further thinking about that either. When there is, say, thought of ill will, it's a thought of ill will, you are not promoting it. Similarly, if there is a loving kindness thought, it is just a loving kindness thought, you are not promoting it either. So when you are stepping into that, so Satipatthana takes you to another level in a way. Now you might have the understanding, okay, these fellows are not trustworthy. These thoughts are not trustworthy. So the Satipatthana gives you another approach telling you, okay, don't trust even a wholesome thought. Don't trust even anyway unwholesome thought. Because why? It is transient, it is impermanent. Samudaya dhammanupasseva chittasming viharati, vaya dhammanupasseva chittasming viharati. So once you decenter yourself, once you are able to come out of the thought, you are no more a victim of that anyway. And also you have the capacity to see how it is arising and how it is changing and ultimately pass away. It is common only to the unwholesome thoughts, or is it common to the wholesome thoughts as well? It is common to both. Wholesome thoughts also condition, unwholesome thoughts also condition. So therefore the aim of the practice is not that you are trying to think the best type of wholesome thought. So it's a very critical statement. Okay, we previously promoted right wholesome thinking. It has a purpose, definitely yes. But once you come to a fairly matured Satipatthana Chittanupassana level, particularly, there you understand even these thoughts are conditioned. Even these thoughts are impermanent. Even these thoughts are transient. I can't trust not only the unwholesome thoughts, even the wholesome thoughts. These are also conditioned phenomena. Now, if we come back to the Parisaupada now, say, rather than merely looking at a desire as desire, how about trying to figure out what is the cause of this desire? Am I experiencing any kind of a feeling? Is it to this particular feeling this particular desire has arisen? Now we are going to another level. Now we are connecting with the Parisaupada. So looking at the desire, desirous thought as a desirous thought is one level, but further going ahead, putting further step, if you are able to understand, okay, there is a little ongoing feeling, to this particular feeling, this particular desire is attached to, and I am further expecting some further of these kind of feelings, so that appear as a desire. So the feeling is the condition for desire to arise. So the Vedana Paccha Tanha, that is another link you can explore particularly while you are practicing Chittanupassana Satipatthana. So there are like that many different instances during the Satipatthana practice. Slowly, we are having the capacity to understand this principle. When feeling is there is a possibility for the arising of a desire, tanha. With the arising of feeling, tanha also arising, desire also arising. When there is no feeling, probably there is no tanha. Particularly, we are talking of the pleasurable feeling. When there is a pleasurable feeling, there is a possibility that the desire to arise, and probably now you experience, there is a pleasurable feeling arising, now there is a desire also arising. On the other hand, iti imasming asati idang na hoti. When there is no pleasurable feeling, there is no desire, now the pleasurable feeling is fading away, desire also fading away. It is possible. So likewise, so if we are a little bit of adding another stage, very subtle reflection into our practice, into our Satipatthana practice, we can touch the principle of the Parisaupada. Now this is not a very complex process, right? It's a very kind of a experiential process. So that's why sometimes we think the Buddha's teaching is extremely complex. Rather, here we can understand what you need is a fair amount of mindfulness, fair amount of concentration, very good clarity of the mind, and now you have the presence of the mind, you are able to balance your effort and you are properly focusing a certain desire, rather certain feeling, and now you are keeping your attention there and you understand, okay, now this feeling is arising. On the other hand, in the mental side, probably you might notice, there's a desire also arising. And probably you see now the feeling is fading away. Probably you might notice in the mind the desire also fading away. So this is a practical way that we can look at both the feeling as well as the mind, how these two are interacting. When the feeling is arising, desire also can arise. With the fading away of the feeling, desire also fade away. It is not that complexity makes the Dhamma really profound. Rather, you have very quiet mind, kind of an investigative quality into the mind, and you are carefully understanding. You are carefully trying to understand what's really going on in the mind. How a desire is arising. What is the cause? You step back and see. And more you understand it, more and more you understand the principle. Yes, Buddha has mentioned Vedana Pacca Tanha. Vedana Pacca Tanha. So likewise, these are very interesting practices, particularly emphasizing the Buddha's teaching into the wisdom part, where we have practical capacity to explore the principle of this Patissamuppada, Idappaccheta. That particular principle is something accessible to us, accessible to the yogi when he is wisely doing that Yoniso Manasikara, wise reflection. You are going to the source, you are going to the root. And you need, rather than being captivated by the desire and ultimately end up with burning with lust and burning with other desires, you are able to recognize the desire. At given one moment, you are able to decenter from that, step out of that, and now you see desire as desire. And if you remember to look at further, what is the cause of the desire? Probably there may be a feeling like that. So therefore, it's a kind of an inner journey, going a little further down and trying to figure out what is the cause for desire, and probably there is a possibility that there may be a feeling. There may be a pleasant feeling. There may be a pleasurable feeling. Now, so this Patissamuppada, just to give a complete in the sense, now there are certain suttas, how Buddha logically certainly get a certain understanding, certain insight. Now, certain suttas like various, even the bodhisattvas, previous bodhisattvas, say Vipassana bodhisattva, like that. So many such stories are there. So they were doing some wise reflection. So what is the cause for the jara marana? What is the cause for decay and death? So when they were wisely reflecting, they understood, okay, it is the birth. Birth was the condition. And what is the cause for the birth? It is this becoming. So becoming is the bhava is the cause. And what is the cause for becoming? That is the tanha. Upadana is the cause. What is the cause for upadana? The tanha was the cause. What is the cause for tanha? The feeling is the cause. Likewise, certain suttas explain the wise reflection based coming to the early links. On the other hand, the Vipassana approach helps to recognize a certain area which is accessible, maybe kind of tangible, easy to understand, and then we can also understand the principle. Now, just to give a practical example, now suppose you are simply sitting in meditation and you feel bored, and there is an image of a chocolate appear in the mind. You feel really bored. At that time, a chocolate drink or yogurt drink or whatever you can think of the best, most enticing kind of a food or drink. an image of that appear in your mind. What happened? Probably you may add to that, right? Probably you start adding to that. You beautify it further. You imagine it to further. And now slowly, previously your mind is fairly empty. Suppose that you are coming to certain amount of emptiness, certain amount of spaciousness. But all of a sudden that beautiful picture of the ice cream or chocolate or whatever thing appear. It appears like really interesting, appears like really beautiful. And you start promoting it. Now slowly your mind start filling with that image. Now what basically happens is, now the mind get occupied and your mind further and further captivated by those images, and now even subtle feelings are also arising, and that also promotes it further, and you start thinking about it. Now you are adding little bit of thinking, thoughts to that picture. Now thinking also going on. When this session going to end? When am I getting up? When am I getting up? When shall I go to there? When am I going to enjoy it? So, the desires are growing, the thoughts are now adding, and images are also coming. And so this is what we can say, a name and form is now slowly activated. Name and form part. So name and form, we can simply say Vedana, Sanya, Chetana, Passa, Manasikara. So these are the little constituent parts of the name and form. So at a very primordial level, you are adding these things now. So at one level, it is coming to the peak, and now you start further thinking about it, you are further imagining about it. Now it's become kind of a repeated thinking about it. Now it has gone to the Manayatana level. It's not a mere thought now, it has gone to an obsessive type of a thinking now. Repeatedly now it is coming again and again to the mind. Mind is fully captivated by that sort of desire. And now it promotes some kind of an activity. Salayatana. It has reached the Salayatana, some kind of an activity. Probably you start mouth watering and probably imagining further about it, and you want to get up now. And so these images appear in the mind, leads you to further action through the six senses. Assume now you can't wait. I want to now, either Bhante is here or not, I am now going to get up. So you get up. Okay, now that is where the body get involved, and mouth is also now get involved. Already Manayatana, the mind already involved, thinking is already there. Now you get up. And assume now you are going towards the fridge, wherever that food is stored. And now you go there. Now the Salayatana is already come to the picture. Now you open the door. Now the contact is there. And now you see that beautiful, that tasty food or whatever. And you reach there and your hand touches that and you take it and you unwrap it. And now you see that beautiful food. Now further mouth watering happens. The Salayatana is further, into the picture. Now you open it, now you take it to the mouth, you touch it, now the tongue feels the taste. Right? So the Salayatana is fully into the picture now. Now when tongue feels that particular taste, now what happens? It promotes a feeling. Contact promotes feeling. Right? That feeling is painful or pleasurable or equanimous. It may be pleasurable, right? It's a pleasurable feeling. Contact has caused pleasurable feeling now. So when pleasurable feeling is there, what further you do? A desire us. I want it more. So you are further eating it, further enjoying it. Now you even close your eyes. Ah, beautiful, so tasty. Fantastic, wonderful. And so you are further and further promoting the desire. And now you close your eyes and now nobody is there. You simply enjoy it bite by bite, bite by bite. You are not in Kalalgoda now. You are born to a different world now. This is how we are mentally born to a different world. You are entirely enjoying that whatever the food, whatever delicious food. This is where what we call the kind of a bhava state. So that upadana, the desire has grown to a level of grasping. Grasping has completely arrested your mind. You are no more in the present moment now. You can't, you forget where you are, who you are. Your experience has completely captivated you, and you are completely born to a new experience. Mentally. Completely born to a new experience, and you are simply enjoying that. Upadana paccaya bhavo. So the desire has come to the grasping level. Grasping has taken you to a entirely new experience. New experience is there. Now you are born to that particular experience. Suppose now slowly you are consuming that, you are enjoying that, the experience is continuing. At one level, assume that it has finished. Now you open your eyes. Ah, my goodness, it has gone. Again back to Kalalgoda. Back to Kalalgoda. Ah, my goodness, that's also finished. I better go back. Others might have noticed me. And you might feel guilt. So that is the repercussion, the consequences, the jara marana part, the what you call the suffering part. So whatever the experience that you have enjoyed is also transient, also impermanent, and there is an end of it, and ultimately it end up with that very boring and kind of self-guilt or accusation, and someone else also blaming, and all that is the ended up suffering part. So all different kinds of desirous states in our mind, like that, we can explain using this formula. So when there is ignorance, it starts doing certain amount of fabrication in the mind. Avijja paccaya sankhara. So when that fabrication happens, you start occupying the mind. So mind start filling it. So name and form and vijnana, the consciousness, start tangling each other. So it's promoting each other. Further thinking, and your mind get further involving, and further images, further little feeling, all that, the tanglement happen. The tanglement promotes you to take an action. It takes you to the salayatana, the sixth sense basis. And now you are acting. You are coming to a very gross level of acting. You are getting up, you are walking and opening the fridge, and you open it. Now start tasting. So that is the salayatana part. And once you taste it, that means the contact part, salayatana paccaya passo. And passa paccaya vedana, now you start feeling the pleasurable feeling. Passa paccaya vedana. And as you experience the pleasurable feeling, now further desires are arising. Vedana paccaya tanha. And you are growing it, you are promoting it, it may cause the grasping. You lose the present moment, you are no more at Kalalgoda, you are in an imaginary world, you are born to a new world. Upadana paccaya bhavo. Bhava paccaya jati. You are born to a new experience. So likewise, you can look at in your own mind how many instances through your mind you are living in a different experience, not in the present moment. You can see how critical is mindfulness in a way. So mindfulness always returns you to the present moment. It may appear like quite boring, but it has a big meaning. Every time when we are unmindful, we are being captivated by a certain desire ongoing in the mind, and we are born to a new experience. We are enjoying that mental world, not in the present moment. You forget where you are. So the importance of this is, more you are developing mindfulness, more you are developing Vipassana practice. So this kind of mind-made fantasy world, mind-made fabricated worlds have to become less and less. Hope you got the point. So your mind-made experiences, fabricated experiences, imagined experiences has to become less and less. So therefore, as we continue the path, these different links, what should happen to those links? If you are understanding these kind of experiences, and now these experiences are slowly reducing, what really happens to the links? What happened to the, say, jati, birth into that experience? What happened to the upadana, the clinging to that experience? What happened to the desire? What happened to the feeling? What happened to the contact? What happened to the salayatana? What's going to happen to those links? They start fading away. So therefore, the links in the Parissamuppada, this formula, are subject to fade away as we develop the path. As we develop the understanding, instead of avijja, now we have vijja, we have wisdom. So as we develop wisdom, so it avoids fabrications, it minimizes the fabrication. It minimizes the tanglement of the consciousness and the name and form. And as we are continuing, then that, ignorant, desire-based, compulsive behaviors become less and less. Right? So you are not compulsively acting, getting up and running there and, before others are coming, I want to go there and catch it. So that is the desire-based, very emotional, quick, unmindful activities. So those become less and less as we continue the path. So likewise you can see, so as we promote the Satipatthana, as we promote the Vipassana practice, so these different links of Patissamuppada has to become less powerful, weaker and weaker. Okay, I think with that note we can conclude today's Dhamma sermon. It's a very interesting area for you to explore. So therefore, Patissamuppada is not that we have to wait till we die to explore. Because there is such explanation is also there, kind of a traditional explanation telling, okay, certain links belong to the past life, certain links belong to the present life, and other links belong to the future life. One can argue and tell that also. It is also, possible to explain. But practically, as meditators, as practitioners, we can see how all these links are operating in a particular instance when our mind is ignorantly born into a new experience. And how it has happened. If you look back and see how it has happened, then you can see, okay, my goodness, I was completely gone through these different stages. But the problem is, it won't take long time for you to get trapped into this experience and ultimately born to that. Now, I have taken almost 1 hour to explain you, but for you to get captured and completely captivated to that experience, it might take only a minute, only a second. That's a problem. So that's why you can see the capacity of the Buddha. So he explains it, he simplifies the whole process and explains us, oh, look at this. This is how it has happened. So if we are mindful, probably we can step back and see how whenever we are being in a dream, whenever we are being fantasizing into something, we are born to a new mental experience. If we are mindful and step back and see how it has slowly happened, you go to the early links, probably you can trace these different factors. It's a very good Vipassana approach which promotes the investigative qualities of the mind, and you are able to untangle a particular tanglement. Typically we get tangled in a certain experience, we are being consumed by certain experience. But if we put this kind of an approach, you are able to untangle from that. You can come out of that experience. Rather than being a victim of that experience, you now have the capacity to look at it mindfully, wisely, through the wise reflection, through yoniso manasikara. Okay, with that I will conclude today's Dhamma sermon. Thank you very much for attentive listening. Okay, there are 2 notes related to the sharing of Dhamma. Sorry. Sharing of Dhamma, yeah. Today's breakfast dana was offered by Shanta and Nirosha. See, Shant, you see your name written as Shanta. So, so he is Shanta. Shanta and Nirosha, and then Shanit, with the intention of passing marriage to all the departed relatives and friends. They want to thank everybody at Kalalgoda for the kind assistance extended when Shanta fell sick during the August retreat. May Bante and the Kalyana Mittas at Kalalgoda progress in the Dhamma path to fulfill their Dhamma desires. Happy New Year to all of you. And second, today's lunch dana was offered by Padma Fernando. Merit of the dana be passed on to my late father, Belin Koditua, Lokuvitana, right? I think Lokuvitana. And late younger brother Kamal. May their sansaric journey be short and attain supreme bliss of Nibbana. Merits to be passed on to my living mother who is 101 years old, and may she be blessed with good health. Blessing to be passed on to Bante, other Bantes and Bhikkhunis and all the Kalagoda yogis and all the living beings. Okay, these are the sharing of merits notes, and I kindly invite Venerable Dhammalankara to perform the traditional sharing of merits.
Let's share our merit with past relatives, celestial beings, and our lay devotees, and whoever wants merit from us. Vipassana Samgadam Punya Sampadam Sabbe Devanumodantu Sabba Sampatti Siddhya Vipassana Samgadam Punya Sampadam Sabbe Bhudanumodantu Sabba Sampatti Siddhya Vipassana Samgadam Punya Sampadam Sabbe Satthanumodantu Sabba Sampatti Siddhya Vaka Sattha Chakmattha Devanaga Mahittika Punyantang Anumoditva Chikam Rakhamtu Sasanam Vaka Sattha Chakmattha Devanaga Mahittika Punyantang Anumoditva Chikam Rakhamtu Desanam Vaka Sattha Chakmattha Devanaga Mahittika Punyantang Anumoditva Chiran Rakhantu Mamparanti Tidam Bonyatinam Hotu Sukita Hontu Nyatayo Idam Bonyatinam Hotu Sukita Hontu Nyatayo Idam Bonyatinam Hotu Sukita Hontu Nyatayo Imina Punya Kammena Mami Bala Samagamo Imina Samagamo Hotu Yava Nibbana Pattiya Imina Punya Kammena Mami Bala Samagamo Satang Samagamo Hotu Yava Nibbana Pattiya Imina Punya Kammena Mami Bala Samagamo Satan Samagamo